There we go. All right, so like I said, mean, median, mode, those are things that you've covered before. Mean is like your average, where you add up all your numbers, divide how many values are in your list. Median's your middle number, so you either put it in like ascending order where you're going up, descending order you're going down, find the middle of that. In general, if they say like find the measures of center or find the measures of central tendency, that's just finding the mean and the median. Occasionally they'll throw mode in there, but not always. But so if they ask you for that, you're just finding those two things. So we'll jump to that example sheet then. Everybody got one of those from history still? Okay. So now you're just gonna actually see. Okay, so this one hopefully shouldn't be too bad. We'll do some later that's like weighted averages that's a little bit different, but this should be just pretty basic. So we got a chart of, I think they're wrestlers. Yeah, varsity wrestling team at a high school. It's got how many people are in each weight class, and they want us to figure out some stuff here. So like the first one, how many members does the team have? Well, how would we find that?
Add up all the numbers.
Yep, add up all of these ones, right? So if we go 4, 3, 3, 2, 1, 1, what do those all add to? 14. Okay, so we got 14 members for that, so not too bad there. Mean, how do we find our mean? Yeah, add them all up and then divide by how many we have. So here, just be careful. So you could either write, like when you're adding it up, you could go like 120 plus 120 plus 120 and do that 4 times. Or what I would probably think there is I'd probably think like 4 times 120 and then, cursor's there, plus 3 times 135 plus 3 times 145 and do it that way instead of adding them each time. It wouldn't be wrong if you added it each time. I don't care, because you get the same answer either way. And then, yeah, we would divide that by however many items we have in our list, and we know we just figured out that there was 14 items in our list, right? And again, I don't care if you do it this way or you just add them all up individually, either way is fine. Anybody get that top number? 152 and a half. Is that after you divided? What was your top number like when you just added all the top ones? 2,135, you said? Yeah. And then divide by your 14, because I was like, how do we get a half in there? Yeah, so then when you divide by your 14, 152 and a half, you said? And that'd be in pounds? Yeah, so like I said, that's just stuff that hopefully you remember doing from, I don't know if that's algebra or what it is, but yeah. So then C, find the median. So I just list them all out, and luckily they're in order there. So like 120, let me do C down here. 120, 120, 20. Probably an easier way you could do this too, I guess, but I already started, so I'll keep going like this. Like I said, there's probably an easier way to do this. You could probably go, okay, there's 4 there, and then count off 4 there, and do it a little differently too, but this will work. So then when we're finding our middle, you know, you just cross off from each side to find the middle, right? So like if I go like 1, 2, 3, 4, cross off 4 from the other side, a couple more, cross off 2. What happens when we get to having like 2 numbers left in the middle? Yeah, so you're finding like the average of those. So yeah, what you do to find the exact middle of those is you add those together. So like 135 plus 145, divide by 2, because that'll get you halfway in the middle. So what would be halfway in the middle? 140, which makes sense because 140 is exactly between 35 and 45. So 140 would be our median. And then for part D, they want to know which of those seems to like describe your typical height of members on the team better. So do you think the 152 does or the 140? I would go with a 142. what could be throwing off our value for our average? The 285, right? That heavyweight value is really going to pull up our average there, so it's probably more accurate to use the median if we're talking about stuff. So for part D, I would say median. And then you could say means higher because of the person at 285. So mean is higher because I don't know, wrestler at 285, something like that. On those ones, as long as you put one of them down and explain your reasoning, like I'm not gonna scold you for like putting mean if you think that's a better one on that. So okay, cool on that. All right, so we'll go back to our sheet here. This is the stuff that's probably a little bit new to you guys. So mode is that top one there. That's probably not new, but this summation notation probably is. I'll zoom it in a little bit more for you. Have you guys seen summation notation before? That E-shaped thing? No? Okay. It's not as hard as it looks. Yeah, math test or something like that maybe, but I promise it's not as bad as it looks. But I would write this stuff since it's something new to me. Okay, so I'm gonna start talking through this stuff. Um, so mode, obviously you guys have done mode before. It's just your number that occurs most often. Sometimes there's multiple of those. Sometimes there's none. This summation notation stuff is going to be the stuff that's new to you guys. Like I said, it's not as complicated as it looks. Summation just means like the sum of something. Okay, they also might use sigma notation to say it too. Sigma is just the symbol that they use, so it's kind of like the pointy E shape there. That's just the Greek symbol for sigma. So they might call it that as well. I call it summation notation, but it's basically just the sum of a list is all it is. So here you've got some like little subscripts and stuff. So like f sub I is just like that. So like when you're talking about the first term in a list, it's f sub 1, second term, f sub 2, and then it just keeps going for however many terms are in your list. What's going on here and what this kind of notation means is if you have a whole list of numbers, like they go up to 19 different numbers here, this is just telling you that you're adding all of those numbers together from that specific list. So this f sub I tells you that it's from this function f here from that specific list. This index for I1 there tells you you're starting with the first term, and then the 19 tells you you're stopping at the 19th term. So like if they switch this to like a 4 and a 6, you would just be adding the 4th term, the 5th term, and the 6th term. So it's just telling you which ones in the list you're adding together. So you're always starting with that one, ending on that term. Okay, and whatever order the list is in, you go from that order. You don't want to put it in like numerical order or anything like that. Whatever order they give it to you in, that's the order you keep it in. Okay, and then if they ask you to like, how would you read this out loud or whatever, it's the sum of f sub I, so coming from there, that goes from 1 to 19. Okay, so it looks way more complicated than it is. Okay, same with this next thing here. This is like finding the average or the mean from that summation notation. There's going to be some questions on that too. This symbol here, I don't know if you guys have ever seen that. You guys ever seen that before? So that symbol there, I put it up. Oops. That on me again. Come on. That is read X bar. So that right there is called X bar, and that's just the symbol they use for mean or average. So I'll let you write that one down because they might just put that symbol there. That's called X bar if you have to read it out loud, and that just means average. And then this is your notation that you could use to find the average. Okay. For some reason, the computer like moved these around. This right here is the same as if the n was on top and the I equals 1 was on the bottom. I don't know why it does that, where it kind of pushed it off to the side there, but it just started doing that. So this is the same as that, I guess, with the x sub I in there. But if you want to write it like that, you can, or you can write it like that. I don't know if it's because it's in the fraction there or what that it, I don't know, just switch that on me. So I'll let you write that quick, but that's just the formula they use for average. Okay. So like I said before, that X bar, when it's just the X with the line over top of it like that, that's just their symboling for mean, and it's a statistical symbol. We're going to have a bunch of symbols later in the chapter. I printed off like a little cheat sheet for you that you can like just tape in your notebook, so you've got like a cheat sheet of what all the symbols are, because we get to some kind of complicated ones and it's hard to remember what they all mean. So I'll give you that. I think it's, I don't know, a couple more sections, we'll get those. But this is the same average that we were finding before, where you just add them all up and then divide by how many numbers you have in that list. So that adding up part is basically the summation thing, and then the n is just dividing by however many numbers you had in that list. And then here, they just write it in a different way with that fraction out front, so instead of dividing it by n, it's just 1 over n times it, but they mean the same thing. Okay, so let's go to that example sheet then. And we'll look at the second one here. So we got family-friendly beach resort, has a total of 32 family suites. G sub I is equal to the number of guests who checked into each suite, and then they want to know what does, and then they've got that summation notation there with the 32 on the top, I is equal to 1 on the bottom of our function G sub I. Okay, what do we think that represents? Yeah, all the guests added together, right? So you could either write it as like, you could write it in words like total number of guests who checked in, something like that. I'd be cool with that. Or could we do it like in like what we would actually be calculating here? So could we do it like, you know, just write an example of like G sub 1, because that's where we're starting, plus G sub 2, plus, and then we go all the way up to the last one would be G sub 32. Something like that, where we're adding them all together. That would be acceptable as well, because that would be another explanation of what it's meaning. So either of those would be fine. Okay, so then now they want us to use that same sigma or summation notation to express our mean or our average of our number of guests. So we're not actually solving it, we're just using that notation. So I don't care if you do the one where it's the fraction over n like we had on the previous page, or if you do the one with the fraction where it's like that and then our summation notation. I guess it's not an n in this case. What would our n be here? What's our total number? The 32, yeah. It would be 32 there, or 32 there. And then you would just use basically this because that's your sum of your list. So 32, because that would be our total. We're starting with the first one in the list, and then our list is coming from that G sub I. So that would be one way to write it. Or you could do, instead of dividing by 32, you could do that fraction 1 over 32, and then times our summation thing, but it's the same exact summation notation, if that makes sense. So again, it's just a different way of writing this stuff out. It's kind of a more advanced way of writing the mean out, if that makes sense. Okay. Okay, if I go back to the other one. Alright, so next thing here is weighted averages. Again, they kind of use a obnoxious formula for this as well. But again, I'll walk you through what the obnoxious stuff means. And again, it looks more complex than it actually is. Again, that summation thing is weird there too. You can put the n on the top and the I on the bottom. It's the same thing.